Support for Mission Nonprofit is provided by Thurston Talk.
Hi, I'm Robert Kim, and you're watching Mission Nonprofit. Each month, we connect with local organizations and agencies that are making a positive impact in our communities. We've invited Christine Rayburn and Liz Schotman from Olympia Surfrider to talk about their work. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, pleasure to be here.
And you all take care of our beaches. The national organization was founded in '84, is that right?
1984, by a group of surfers that were responding to a threat to one of their favorite surf beaches, a threat of development. And so they sort of banded together and tried to stop some unfortunate development from happening, and then it just snowballed from there into this national grassroots network.
Okay, and you're with the Olympia chapter. So you do some work cleaning up our beaches, mainly the west coast over by like Westport and Ocean Shores and other beaches over there?
Yeah. So we work pretty closely with the state park, Washington State Park. So we often do a lot of our cleanups at Twin Harbors State Park, just because they're great to work with and it's a really popular beach. But we'll also do some cleanups out at near the jetty by the lighthouse, which is a little north of Twin Harbors. Because that's a really popular surf spot. Probably the most popular surf spot in Washington, I think.
And aside from picking up trash on the beach, there are other things you do. Do you want to tell me about some of those things?
Yeah, so we, in addition to collecting all that beach trash, when we have the volunteer ability and capacity, we sort and count and weigh that trash. And we collect those data, which we then enter into a national database, and that allows us to sort of track what items we're seeing most commonly. And that allows us to advocate for better policies to address those common pollution problems. So for example, we used to see plastic bags were one of the most common items, and so we pushed for the bag ban that was passed last year, I believe, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was passed last year and should go and postponed.
Yeah, that's right.
Until August 1st.
And
or,
October 1st. Yep.
Of this year?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. That's good. I want to get those plastic bags out of my grocery store.
Yeah, man, yeah, for sure. So you can still bring your reusables, though, at any point.
Yeah, you can do that again now, so that's good.
And then another similar program that we have to address the issue of single-use plastics is our Ocean-Friendly Restaurants program, which I'll let Christine talk about, because she's our coordinator.
Yeah, so the Ocean Friendly Restaurants program was started to help restaurants sort of have a framework of how they could be more sustainable. Because when we were doing all those beach cleanups, Surfrider recognizes a lot of those top 10 items are single-use plastic items that often are takeaway containers or plastic bottles or plastic cutlery from restaurants. And so that kind of started the idea that ocean-friendly restaurants could be a great way to get communities and businesses on board to be more sustainable, cut way back, if not end single-use plastic, and just be kind of healthier in local communities. So we have a program here with the Olympia Surfrider and restaurants in town, and the program has just sort of added some new criteria that restaurants have to meet. So there's 7 criteria that a restaurant must meet, and then there's some optional criteria. So just as an example of some of the criteria that they have to meet, or no styrofoam, reusable tableware on site. If they have to-go items, they are on request only. Straws are on request only. No plastic bags are used, that sort of thing. And then optional criteria that restaurants may choose might be seafood, sustainable seafood options, could be LED lighting, low flush toilets, just kind of all sorts of composting. So those sorts of things. And so we meet with restaurants and kind of help them move in that direction.
You have like maybe 6 or 7 of them in town, is that right?
We do, and they are currently kind of moving away from the pandemic way of serving, which wound up being a lot more single-use plastics, unfortunately came back, even though they didn't want them to, and they are moving to kind of meet the new criteria. So, and we have a couple new ones in my back pocket that I'm hoping to get out soon that we've been talking with. So.
Okay, good. So 6 or 7, but it's growing.
Yes, but
All
it's
right.
growing, definitely.
And you probably gave them a little bit of leeway with the pandemic and the 2020.
Yeah, they are getting a little bit of a leeway, even registered, if they kind of still have some of those practices that they're trying to switch over. Yeah, we're not kicking them out.
The whole purpose of the program is to work with industry instead of like legislating these top-down policy solutions. Like ideally, we want to work with the people in our community to build, a better sustainable future together, sort of ethos. And so, we're not going to come down on it and be like, we saw a plastic bag in your establishment at 12:14 on this day. Like we understand that restaurants have been struggling. Pretty hard this
They got
past.
other things to think about right
Yeah,
now.
exactly. So we totally are on board with that, and we just want them to survive, like first and foremost, and then we can work on the plastics issue going forward once things sort of normalize.
Yeah. What's cool about it is that when a lot of restaurants get on board, though, it makes the whole idea of not needing single-use plastics more mainstream. Like it can be pretty doable. And then they become educators in the community, which I think is pretty cool.
That's true. When you go to the restaurant and you see this stuff happening, you're like, oh, that's a good idea.
And those industries also play a big part in those large-scale policy changes. So, we have our volunteers collect all this debris from the beach, and then we're like, forks and straws and cups and lids and wrappers, like these are the things we see most commonly. And so we bring those to our legislators and we're like, these are the common problems that we see. And then we also have our ocean-friendly restaurants that we're like, we can still do our business without these products. And we can hold them up as an example of like, we can find solutions that do work for industry and the restaurant industry that also are better for their environment. So it's a great sort of partnership of all these different components that are working towards this plastic-free future that we would all love to be in.
Well, we have this video that talks about 2020 and how the National Surfrider chapter, how well they did in 2020 and the successes that they made in spite of the pandemic. So why don't we take a look at that, and it explains a little bit more about your organization. So let's take a look at that and we'll come back and we'll talk more.
Sounds good.
Hi, I'm Chad Nelson, CEO of the Surfrider Foundation. 2020 has been a challenging year to say the least. But through it all, the Surfrider Foundation pushed forward, and thanks to the tireless efforts of our grassroots network of volunteers and our expert staff, we had over 62 coastal victories to protect our ocean waves and beaches. We kicked off 2020 pre-COVID by bringing over 150 activists to Washington, D.C. for Coastal Recreation Hill Day, where we championed climate change, clean water, and healthy beaches. We held over 150 meetings with representatives from around the country and met with the Special Committee on Climate Change at the Senate. Once COVID struck, we quickly adapted to ensure that our network was safe. We updated our protocols for all of our on-beach activities and started researching the impacts of COVID and how it might affect water quality and beach access. We subsequently worked really hard with local and state government to ensure that we could reopen beaches across the United States safely. With new COVID safety protocols in place, we were able to resume some of our activities at the beach, including our beach cleanups, where we moved to solo beach cleanups so individuals could go down to the beach and pick up trash to help solve the plastic pollution problem. Through our Blue Water Task Force monitoring program, we were able to restart monitoring of beaches all across the country to ensure that the public knows if it's safe to surf or swim. Another significant win for the Surfrider Foundation was a Clean Water Act case that went all the way to the Supreme Court, having to do with a Maui injection well where wastewater is being pumped into the ground and impacting coral reefs. It was called the Clean Water Case of the Century, and we won, and it strengthens the Clean Water Act all across the country. The Surfrider Foundation also scored a pretty rare bipartisan victory by helping pass the Great American Outdoors Act, which funds something called the Land and Water Conservation Fund that provides $900 million for public lands and waters all across the United States. After 15 years With thousands of activists and countless hours put into it, we finally saved Trussell's forever by passing state legislation that prohibits any road from being built inside San Onofre State Park. Over the course of this year, we've been able to pass 25 plastic pollution policy wins, including state legislation in both Washington and New Jersey to reduce the impact of single-use plastics on our beaches and the ocean. This fall, the Surfrider Foundation is really proud to release our State of the Beach report, where we evaluate states' ability to respond to coastal impacts from climate change. Those include sea level rise, increased storms, inappropriate development, and plans to adapt to changes we're going to see in our lifetimes. As we headed into one of the most divisive and important elections of our lifetime, the Surfrider Foundation launched our I Vote For campaign. With the help of activists and some of our ambassadors, we encouraged all Americans who care about our coast and ocean to exercise their democratic right to vote. So let's talk about what's coming up for 2021. The Surfrider Foundation has identified 3 priority issues to focus on. Those include plastic pollution, clean water, and climate change. On the plastic pollution front, our goal is to stop the flow of plastic pollution into the ocean. Plastic pollution is one of the greatest threats to the health of our marine environments. Surfrider Foundation's goals are to pass the federal Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act, the first comprehensive bill to address plastic pollution from production to disposal nationwide. Our network will continue to clean our beaches and engage over 30,000 volunteers in cleanup events to remove over 200,000 pounds of trash. Our second goal is to protect clean water for all people. Water pollution at our beaches threatens the health of surfers and swimmers and causes over 20,000 health advisories each year. The Surfrider Foundation will ensure that the Biden administration and Congress hold up the Clean Water Act through sufficient funding and enforcement of water quality regulations and programs. Our third priority is to drive federal action on climate change. The Surfrider Foundation will work to pass the Ocean Climate Solutions Act. Key elements include banning new offshore drilling and protecting 30% of ocean habitats by 2030. Surfrider will also help states and communities adapt to climate change impacts, including sea level rise and coastal flooding. This includes pushing for stronger coastal policies and supporting adaptive planning. The Surfrider Foundation will push the Biden administration to aggressively implement its climate plan, including rejoining the Paris Agreement and transitioning the United States to a 100% clean energy economy. So from all of us here at the Surfrider Foundation, we want to thank you for your continued support. Without you, we would not be able to achieve the amazing work we do to protect our ocean, waves, and beaches. Thank you so much, and happy holidays.
Welcome back to Mission Nonprofit. If you're just joining us, our guest is Olympia Surfrider. And Christine Rayburn and Liz Schotman are here to talk to me about their organization. And we just saw a national video. This is the national group of Oly Surfrider. I mean, it's called Surfrider, right? Okay, Surfrider. But the Olympia chapter. And let's talk a little bit about your successes advocating. You did the plastic bag ban, right? And that's with the state of Washington. Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
How about styrofoam?
We banned that again
this
year, yeah. So the model that Surfrider Foundation nationally uses is that we have local volunteer-led chapters all over our coastal states, and we have over 80 chapters right now in the U.S. And so chapters have the freedom to pick and choose what issues are relevant and important to them in their communities. And so they work on a local level, working on local, ordinances and things like that. And then they also, kind of work and coordinate on a statewide and regional level. And then, like the video said, we also participate in federal activism on a federal level. And so yeah, here in Olympia, like Chad, our CEO, was saying, we focus, our primary initiatives are clean water, fighting climate change, and healthy beaches, and fighting plastic pollution. And so for Olympia, we do a lot of beach cleanups every year. Like we already mentioned, we usually go out to Westport area. What do you think, 3 or 4 times a year?
Yeah, 4 or 5 times.
4 or 5 times a year. So usually, definitely for July 5th is usually a big one that we just had, because there's a lot of post-July 4th celebration plastic pollution on the beaches.
Yeah, so. Fireworks, shrapnel.
Oh, yeah. Fireworks are a big problem in many ways. So that's a big one we just completed. And then later this year coming up, we have International Coastal Cleanup Day in September. That's another big one that chapters and other organizations all over the state and all over the world actually participate in. And we also have Washington Coastal Cleanup Day, which is in June, I think. And then we'll also do, like, there's World Oceans Day and another few, sort of days that will go out to the coast. And then we also have a Hold On to Your Butts program here in Olympia. And I can let Christine talk about that a little bit because she's been our butt leader, if you will.
Yeah, so the program is called Hold On to Your Butts, which is pretty funny. And so we have, Surfrider Foundation has canisters that are available for chapters who want to do the program. And so we brought a canister just so you can see one. And our downtown Olympia has 6 of these canisters, and we partner with the Downtown Olympia Clean Team, and they have put the canisters in and maintained them, which is really great. And another part to the program that we do is we have cleanups downtown that are just cigarette focused. And sometimes we collect anywhere from 5,000 to 8,000 cigarette butts in an hour. We do just an hour because you kind of get sore using the picker and picking up little cigarette butts. But so that's a big program. What's kind of cool is different businesses downtown usually partner with us too and do little raffle prizes and things like that after the cleanup. And so we have the canisters to sell to anyone who's interested.
So if
restaurants or
businesses,
they can just contact us and
Nice.
Yeah.
Great.
And cigarette butts are the most littered item on Earth, and they're made of plastic, and they contain a lot of toxic chemicals from all the tobacco products that people try to filter out with them.
Probably bad for wildlife.
It's very bad for wildlife. It's very bad for water quality, and they're lightweight, and so they get easily washed down into our storm drains. And so that's why we focus on like the downtown, what we call butt pickups, because it's a way to sort of intercept that trash before it becomes marine debris and causes all those wildlife problems.
And you'll notice them a lot because the paper on the outside of the cigarette butt may eventually kind of come off and deteriorate, but that plastic filter, you can always find those fuzzy little plastic filters everywhere. So
that's going
it's
to be bad
important
for
we get
wildlife.
those picked up.
And we've collected, I think, over 22,000 cigarette butts since we started doing these butt pickups, I think in 2020, like early 2020 maybe.
Yeah. We might have started in we started in 2019.
So in less than 2 years. It's very satisfying to go through.
We'd rather not do it, but there is something really satisfying about picking those up. So
so that's been a really fun program that we're hoping to expand.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And then one of the second initiatives that we mentioned was clean water. And so nationally there's the Blue Water Task Force program, which is sort of a community science water quality sampling effort that Surfrider Foundation participates in and sort of organizes. And so 4 out of the 5 chapters that we have here in Washington have a Blue Water Task Force program where any volunteer can go out and we'll train you on how to collect a water quality sample. And then here in Olympia, we partner with Thurston County Lab and the Department of Ecology's beach program staff, who are great. And so we just drop our samples off at the local lab and they get processed, and then we publish those results on our Blue Water Task Force website. That's bwtf.surfrider.org. And it's just a way we test for Enterococcus, which is an indicator bacteria that there's potentially fecal contamination in the water, which is really important to know if you're going to be recreating in the water. And so that's another program that we participate in, and the goal is sort of to fill in the gaps where our agencies don't have the resources to, they can't sample every beach throughout the year. And so here in Olympia, we sample once a week between Memorial Day and Labor Day, so in the high-use summer months off of Priest Point Park. We collect 3 samples once a week and publish those results so that people know if it's safe to swim in the water.
Yeah, and I saw that on your website where you have the map and you have the little locations, and you can just click on it and see what the water quality test showed up or how
Yeah.
what was the results were.
Yeah.
And your website is Olympia. Is it olympia.surfrider.org?
That is correct. Yep.
Olympia.surfrider.org.
Yeah, and so you can find more information on all the programs that we talk about on that website for
Yeah,
sure.
and we have an events calendar, so you can. It could be a place that you could go to see when the beach cleanups are coming up, or the cigarette butt cleanups are coming up, or just any of our events.
One of them is coming up September 2nd, you said, right? Is that?
Well, we do have a cigarette butt cleanup this month, but also in August, which I think is like August 18th, or something around there. Please check the website for details on that. And then the big beach cleanup out on the coast will be in September.
That's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, that one's going to be on September 11th this year.
Oh, it's at September
Yeah.
11th. Okay, I got the
Yeah.
date wrong, but
Sometimes it moves around a little bit.
yeah.
It does. Yeah, and the other thing that we really love to do, our chapter loves to do, is table at events, which of course we really missed during the pandemic. So we're really excited to get out to different local events and set up our table and do the education on plastic pollution in our community. And we also visit classrooms, and we can visit businesses. We have a whole spiel about it that we can
All right.
that we can share. So we do find ourselves in the public schools a lot, and so
Yeah, we love doing outreach and trying to raise awareness about these important issues, and so we're always willing to visit, and either whether it's Zoom or in person, and give our spiel on sort of the different threats that plastic pollution poses, and any other issue related to coasts and water quality and things.
Yeah, those images in that video we watched earlier were heartbreaking to see that diver with plastic all over the place.
Yep.
Yeah.
And by the way, you don't have to be a surfer
Yeah.
to
Common.
volunteer for Surfrider. Just to put that in, that was usually the question that we always get asked. Oh, do you
Yeah.
surf? No.
I mean, I've
Never-
tried. I'm not good at it.
Yeah.
You just have to care about the beaches.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I know another goal is to improve beach access.
Yes, that is
So-
one of our primary, top 5 initiatives as well. And so, if there's threats like coastal development or privatization of beaches around the nation, we try to advocate, because our mission statement is the protection and enjoyment of ocean, waves, and beaches for all people. And we recognize that not all people have equal access to these important places that I know are very special to me, and I want other people to be able to access and experience those coastal locations. And so that is a big initiative that we have, is fighting to maintain access.
Do you have any success stories about creating a new public beach access
I don't know if I have
road
any off
or
my head.
park or something like that on our coast?
Well, I know that before we both joined, the chapter was really proactive in working out at West Haven State Park for that access and for that area to make sure that it was being maintained for surfers and for recreation. So.
Yeah, I can't speak to that because it was before my time. We had a big Care for the Cove project that involved working with the Army Corps of Engineers to maintain sort of the morphology of the beach to, protect the waves, because it is a very important surfing destination for many Washingtonians. And beaches move around, sands shift, especially with like shoreline armoring and things. It can change the hydrology of the area and the formation of the waves, and so it requires some maintenance and upkeep sometimes to make sure those waves are maintained and don't shift and die over time.
But it's mostly sandy beaches that you're protecting. You don't really work with rocky beaches or places you
No,
might...
we absolutely
okay.
do. We absolutely do.
So the sound.
Yeah,
well.
we have, all of our chapters are located around the Sound. So we have one in Bellingham, one in Seattle, one in Tacoma, here in Olympia, and also one out in the peninsula, primarily in Port Angeles, but they do work throughout the peninsula. And there's a lot of amazing rocky tidal habitat in Washington. And then we also have several chapters in Oregon that have done a lot to protect their rocky coastlines as well, in those tide pool areas and stuff. So.
Yeah, and those are important for people that want to shellfish, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Okay. So what's coming up soon? This is August now. So what is we got to clean up on September 11th, and people can go to your website and find a volunteer page or just
Yeah.
Is
Well,
that what people would
we'd
do?
love it if they'd like to come to any of our public meetings. The
Oh,
last
right, the public
Wednesday of the
meetings,
month,
okay.
we have public meetings, and we always try to have a presenter either from our local community or from somewhere in Washington who is talking about an environmental issue, whether it has to do with habitat or shorebirds or plastic pollution or
Yeah, we've had all sorts of great
Anything,
partners
yeah.
in our
Orca
presenter series. We've
fellow
had
came to- yeah.
Zero Waste Washington, Defenders of Wildlife, Audubon, Black Hills Audubon Society came.
Whale research.
The Washington Stormwater Center gave a really good presentation on how tire runoff is hurting our salmon. And so we try to invite people from all walks, all fields and all these different agencies that are doing great work just so, to share that awareness. So it's really fun. I love it. I've learned so much just working with those individuals.
And it's fun because usually we try to have those at our ocean-friendly restaurants so we can be supporting them. And so it's for all ages, like Liz says, and so that would be really great. And you don't have to be a member, necessarily a paying member of Surfrider Foundation, to come and volunteer with us or to come to the meetings or to hang out. So obviously people can get on the website and become a member. I think it's like
$25 a year.
$25 a year. It does go to supporting locally and also nationally, but it's just great to have anybody who wants to come out, and it doesn't have to be every time. It could just be, when they have something of interest. So everyone's welcome.
For sure.
The last Wednesday of the month.
Yep.
The last Wednesday of
They
the
can
month.
find
Usually
out
around-
where
Yep.
on your website, olympia.surfrider.org. And
And then we also have an Instagram and a Facebook if people are really into the social media.
okay, excellent. We'll put those up on the screen here.
And then if you do go to that olympia.surfrider.org website, at the bottom there's a newsletter sign up. And so we try to send out just a monthly newsletter. If there's some sort of special event or especially during like the legislative session, we might send like an extra email or two a month just to be like, hey, take action now, we need your help. But for the most part, it's just a monthly update on here's what's coming down the pipeline, here are the events and the cleanups that we have planned, and here's the next meeting schedule. So I definitely recommend signing up for that newsletter.
Well, we're out of time, but I'll give you a quick minute to go to each of you and mention anything else that we didn't get to talk about. So starting with you, Christine.
Well, I just want to mention that that watching the news lately can just seem really hopeless and scary. And I just feel like there's nothing cooler than joining a group of like-minded people who can just uplift each other and give each other hope that there are solutions, and together, if we all work together, then we can take action and make change. And it's just cool to be a part of it.
Well said. Liz?
I second that. Action is the antidote to despair, and I know I've definitely felt a lot of despair the last couple years. And so, yeah, Surfrider just has such a positive vibe, and the protection and enjoyment part is built into our mission statement, and so it's full of just amazing, rad, passionate people who are a lot of fun to be around. So highly recommend volunteering, and there's lots of different options or opportunities to participate and engage and feel good about contributing to your local community and the environment.
Right, and meet some like-minded friends,
And meet
right?
some like-minded people.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, that's all we have for you for this episode of Mission Nonprofit. Please visit their website at olympia.surfrider.org. You can also find them on Facebook and Instagram, right? Yeah. We'll see you next time.
Support for Mission Nonprofit is provided by Thurston Talk.